Hi everyone, Whitethany Raptano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for White Rappers Tier List Part 2. Yes, we did a White Rappers tier list on this channel already, which we will link you to down below. The names that we talked about in that video were really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to white rappers, and there were many big, significant, and important names that honestly just went overlooked and necessitated that I do a part 2. Okay, here it is, the tier list. Let's get into it. And interestingly, we are going to start this tier list off with none other than Suicide Boys, two relatively recent additions to the pantheon of white rappers, artists who I definitely respect in their own right because of the incredibly large and passionate audience they have amassed independently. I mean, I may not review a whole lot of Suicide Boys projects or love a whole lot of Suicide Boys projects from beginning to end, but you know what? They have their own distinct lane and sound, and they even sampled me one time, which always flattered that such a thing would happen, regardless of if it's like positive or negative. But I gotta say, Suicide Boys, they are consistent, but I'm not really, again, still super crazy about their sound or their lyricism and production chops. I mean, for sure, what they do works very well as an homage to classic Memphis rap, but I just don't think they put an interesting spin on any of those sounds much of the time, and mostly live in the shadow of their influences, even in their best moments. So while I don't think the duo makes like overtly bad music or anything like that, it's certainly not anything that stands out to me or blows me away much of the time, which is why I think I can put them like in the C tier, as much as that may piss some people off. All right, next in the list over here, we have, wow, home state hero Apathy over here, crazy Honky Kong himself. Dang, didn't know Austen was going to be throwing this in the list over here. Apathy is a bit of a rapper's rapper, talented spitter, wordsmith, and producer as well in his own right. And, you know, I have messed with some of his projects myself quite a bit, even if, like, I'm not in love with everything that he does. I'm gonna, you know, come out here and admit there is a bit of a home court advantage here for Apathy. Say that maybe there's a smidge of bias coming from me on this one, but, you know, I'll put him in the B tier, very snugly in the B tier. Next, of course, you know him, you love him, Asher Roth. Yeah, Asher Roth is in the mix over here. And yeah, I don't have particularly positive feelings about Asher Roth. I think as a rapper, he is very merely okay, like the okayest of okay. I can't in good conscience place him very high at all in this tier list because like the body of work is just really not there. Like even if you are a good, talented rapper and lyricist, you still have to have like the records and the quality songs and again like the greater body of work to like really support, you know, a high position in this tier list. Yeah, the catalog for Asher is just not really there, and even in his best moments, he did borderline feel like a bit of a novelty artist, I would say. So I would probably put him down in the E tier. We can go E. Okay, next in the list over here, we have apparently Blade. Yes, Drain Gang artist Blade. Somebody whose work very early on I was not very impressed with at all. I think you could say like some of his earliest releases I just outright hated and could not really stand, as I found a lot of the rapping and performances to be, you know, very lazy and unenthusiastic and uninteresting. And while since then, I wouldn't say Blade has become like, you know, a master spitter or anything like that, he has found a very unique lane for himself these days where he's experimenting a lot aesthetically, making some very cool and unique production choices. And I think his lyrical and vocal style has evolved in such a way to where it just feels very unique to him and beneficial special to the sorts of beats that he hops on top of. Like, he's found ways to experiment with this style of music to make it work with his like kind of very left field and sometimes shy and I would say like, alternative approach and delivery style. And his music and records and tapes overall have been getting better and better as a result. And even when I'm not like a massive fan of one of them due to either the consistency or something else, I can at least respect that like he definitely has his own lane and his own recognizable sound at this point. And there's something about him as well that makes me excited to listen to each new project just to see what he is going to do next, which is why I would put him pretty solidly in the B tier. There we go. B for Blade. Okay, next we have Bones. Somebody who, if you're not familiar, came up around a time and in a context that was very similar to that of Suicide Boys, who I just mentioned a few minutes ago. Like a lot of crossover audience and appeal and influences there between the two for sure. But I would say comparatively, Bones can be a little more inconsistent, I guess. Like along the Bones catalog, I have most certainly heard lower lows, but by that same token, I do kind of appreciate the fact that Bones does at least like take more risks with doing projects and albums that tend to be maybe a tad more experimental or even conceptual in some cases. But even in his best moments, there does tend to be like an edginess there to Bones stuff that I find to be maybe a little bit, difficult to stomach at points, I guess you could say. But yeah, definitely a guy with a sound, an audience, a certain consistency about what he does as well, though I don't find him to be like, one of the best of all time when it comes to this like very kind of grim, eerie, dark hip hop lane. I'm putting him in C as well. Next, we have Brother Ali. While I wouldn't call myself like a massive Brother Ali fan today, it's not like he's an artist who is in regular rotation for me currently. He's still a veteran of the game and somebody who is highly respectable, somebody whose work like I really did admire back when I was, maybe more into that backpack rapper shit in college. And when it comes to that 2000s conscious hip hop lane, Brother Ali is undoubtedly like, one of the best that there's ever been. He also has a standout, one of a kind, passionate delivery that I think makes him like a cut above the rest much of the time. If you're not going back and listening to records like Shadows on the Sun, as well as Undisputable Truth, you most definitely should be. I'm going to take Mr. Ali and put him over in the A tier. Bam. Okay, we have Mr. Chuchesta. I was listening back to Friend from the Apple Store the other day, and the storytelling on that track, it's really just unparalleled, like totally creative, amazing, mind-blowing stuff. But still, with that being said, there has not been a follow-up to his new classic mixtape. I feel like he's like really abandoned the game, that he's trash, that he's terrible. That if he did actually have any talent, there would have been another tape in him, another record, another something, but there wasn't. So I'm going to put him over in the F tier. He sucks. Next we have Mr. Fred Durst, who, yes, while not strictly a hip hop artist, he has done his fair share of rapping, that's for sure. And Fred, I mean, lyrically, he's a guy who I'm kind of torn on. There are so many bars in the Durst discography that are unbearably cringe and make me want to just throw up on sight. But simultaneously, he's also like a funny, quirky little guy who has, some endearing traits. There is like a zaniness to his machismo that I really deeply appreciate. And, he's also got an instantly recognizable style, delivery. And, he was really putting on for all the angry, sad, in much need of a tough male figure to look up to white guys in the 2000s. We could put Mr. Durst in the D over here, D for Durst. I think that, makes sense. We can do that. Okay. Following this, we have Ian. Yeah, Ian is terrible, has never made a good song, never made a good project. Never heard a rap verse from him that I thought was like impressive or interesting. Even his most attention-grabbing moments on some level have been like, embarrassing and boring on some level. I'm putting him over in the F tier over here. Bam. There you go. Ian and F. Boo-boo. Okay. After this, we have an Insane Clown Posse. I'm torn on ICP, honestly, in ways that I am similarly torn on Mr. Fred Durst. Because with ICP, I mean, I like, the aesthetics, I like the branding, I like, some of the culture around what they do, what they've kind of built for themselves as a community, as a fandom. I like the storytelling they've engaged in across like their entire discography and, the certain like, kind of clowns and spirits and visuals they have, basically like told the story of ICP with from record to record. The world building they've engaged in through ICP. Like there may be some music snobs who are like scoffing at the idea of this, but, if there wasn't something genuinely compelling about, the world of the Insane Clown Posse, I don't think they would still be like active and successful to the degree that they are to this day. I mean, for example, like the gathering of the Juggalos every year is like still a thing in 2025 that like, attracts all kinds of like sightseers and music fans and, I would say like, anthropological tourists. Just because the little niche these guys have carved out for themselves is truly so unique and odd. And they just cater to the musical fan base that they do in a way that truly no other musician can. Now, with that being said, the actual experience of, listening to an Insane Clown Posse album from front to back, or even watching an Insane Clown Posse movie can be quite the challenge, mostly either because the storytelling or rapping or lyricism can be pretty subpar or grating, or even going back to their best and most classic works, very derivative of a lot of the horrorcore and hardcore hip hop that was prevalent at the time. But still, ICP does have a special something that is most definitely unique to them, which is why I feel like I could put them in the D column, like C if I'm being very generous. Maybe I'm feeling generous today. We'll go C. Okay, next we have Iggy Azalea. Yeah, I feel like I'm just gonna put Iggy down in E over here, just because I don't find her to be a great rapper, a great songwriter. She legit has a handful of decent hits. And, recently I don't really mind some of the more pop centric cuts that she's, put out, even though, music doesn't really seem to be like her focus, in recent years. But, I'm not really that crazy about Iggy Azalea. I feel like, she had some bangers coming out of the gate. And since then, it's just been a very aggressive cultural and artistic fall off, and there's not really much to be gleaned from her catalog outside of, a few standout songs here and there. Okay, next we have Jack Harlow, who I think is very much like suffering from the Iggy Azalea effect right now, but we're just sort of like watching it play out in a fashion that is more recent, because Jack Harlow over the course of his career, and he's been putting out tapes and projects for years at this point. I mean, he doesn't really have anything to show for all of his efforts and all of his time in the industry, except for a few standout freestyles, a couple of banger singles, several legit banger singles, if we are, being generous. A lot of them have kind of like, washed out with the tide, though, in recent years. And he's like really failed to come through with a complete, coherent, well-groomed and impressive project. And it's starting to get to the point where the likelihood of that happening is getting lower and lower with each passing year. I feel like I'm just going to put him over in the E tier as well, because I just progressively find his projects and his songs to be getting just more uninspired, boring, and lacking in anything that could be deemed as exciting or, significant, as far as like whatever we're considering to be the greater hip hop canon, whatever. All right, next in the list, we have Mr. Lil Mabu. A lot of this guy's talents tend to focus more around just kind of getting a rise out of people on social media and exploiting the New York drill scene in such a way to where he just kind of makes it seem like he doesn't take it very seriously and that he thinks it's like kind of, something to make a joke out of, light out of. And again, to be like, perfectly clear about my own thoughts on this and what I am saying. I am saying that I don't personally feel this way about the New York drill scene. I'm just saying the way Lil Mabu conducts himself in his songs, in his music videos, and on social media, it comes across that he feels that way. Let's be real here. Like, the drill scene is a seriously, gritty, dark, and sometimes like very dangerous scene of music. Lil Mabu operates within it as if he's like, a performing actor on a sketch TV show.
Not so fast.
Fuck, I knew he was a cop.
Man, fuck. What you mean?
Not only that, but like, songs that he's come out with in the wake of his, boom in popularity have come across like just like some fake deep bullshit where he thinks like his music or his message or I don't know, the place that he operates from in the world is like coming from this place of like, I don't know, I'm inspiring people or something like that. I have no idea what the hell's going on through this kid's head. I don't know. His whole career just comes across as like an extended act of clout chasing, which is why I am going to probably put him down in the F tier. Bam. Okay, next we have none other than Lil Peep, someone who, to be honest, I was never a huge fan of his music when he was like, still with us and operating very consistently, releasing tapes, projects. But I can't really deny that he did have like a unique sound within the emo rap and emo trap lane, and that he contributed to that world of music in a way that few other artists did. And there are most definitely like dozens of artists operating today that would not be around if not for his influence. Plus, when he was here, I mean, he was very like, pro-Palestine. Got to give bro some points for that, for being ahead of the curve on numerous fronts, which is why, even though I'm not a massive Peep fan, because I just don't really feel like the catalog is there, honestly, I'll put him in the C tier, I suppose. Next, we have Lil Ugly Mane. Okay, we're doing Lil Ugly Mane. I mean, I respect him highly as a rapper, as a producer, as really a multi-talent. There's definitely some Lil Ugly Mane projects that I have loved upon first hearing, have grown on me with time, and it's also been cool to kind of hear him musically expand beyond the hip-hop realm into a bunch of like, kind of homespun, lo-fi experimental music styles. Even though I wouldn't say he's like one of the greatest rappers of all time or anything like that, he's like most certainly a talented musician all around, and I could pretty handily put him in the B tier, no question whatsoever. Okay, Mac Lethal over here is, maybe an artist that a lot of people would completely write off because, oh, hey, YouTube rapper, blah. Which, yeah, I mean, I get how on the surface that doesn't seem like the coolest, most interesting thing, but Mac is still like undeniably a talented rapper and lyricist, skilled guy, seems to care a whole lot about his craft, and you gotta give it to him for taking it lyrically to Tom MacDonald in a way that few people have had the guts to. I would probably take Mac Lethal and put him over in the C tier. He's not bad at all, not terrible by any means. Okay, next in the list over here, we have Mr. R.A. the Rugged Man. Definitely a veteran of the game, a guy who, had a bit of an edgy streak to him during the golden age of the 90s East Coast hip hop era. Had some great tracks from way back then, a very solid debut album in the mid 2000s too. A talented lyricist as well, even if like his, sense of humor didn't always like resonate with me, especially as like a lot of his older tracks have aged over the years. Still very talented like wordsmith and spitter, and somebody who I feel like I could very confidently put in the B tier with no question whatsoever. Okay, after this, we have none other than Russ, most successful independent rap artist, so they say, my Italian brother from another mother. I mean, I can't deny Russ's success and talent and consistency over the years. He's like really truly built something unique for himself that, very few artists have been able to scale at the level that he has completely on his own for the most part, which I think is admirable and great. And I love that, he continues to stand for, artists' rights, that he seemingly cares about the state of the music industry in the streaming age, that he has a lot to say, and he, kind of operates in an unfiltered fashion, regardless of, who likes what he has to say or not. And, recently he's had some pretty interesting projects where he's explored some more classic hardcore hip hop and boom bap sounds with a myriad of different artists who kind of work within that sound and context. But, it remains that I find a lot of his albums to be kind of bland and uninspired, playing it safe for the most part. But, at the end of the day, there's an audience for that type of thing. Not every record out there has to be the most hardcore and crazy and, truly hip hop, not pop centric project out there ever of all time. I'm not saying Russ has to operate by those standards. He's clearly a guy who wants to just kind of march to the beat of his own drum. But yeah, even if I can acknowledge that Russ's growth and trajectory is interesting, from a narrative standpoint, it doesn't mean I find the music to be all that great a lot of the time, which is why I'm going to probably put him in the D tier. We have Riff Raff over here, who's certainly made his fair share of fun, silly songs. He's really more of a meme, though, at the end of the day. But you know what? I think he's one of the best memes the world of hip hop has ever had to offer, which is why I'm probably going to be a little generous here and put him in the D tier as well. Next after this, we have frickin' MC Search. I mean, really one of the goats of hip hop's golden age. I mean, Third Base not only had some really classic tracks, a really great debut album, but I mean, Third Base also kind of frickin' put on MF Doom. What the fuck? I mean, they contributed to the genre in a pretty significant way. And, I think Search is a very talented guy in his own right. I'm going to put him over in the frickin' A tier, hell yeah. And then conversely, we have one of the golden age not goats, Mr. Vanilla Ice, who, I mean, has a couple of memorable songs to his name, for sure. A lot of weird rap rock tunes to his name lately. But you know what? He was in the goddamn Ninja Turtles movie, and that's got to count for something, which is probably why I'm going to put him over in the D tier as well. Maybe E. Maybe ED. And I think that's going to be it for my white rappers tier list part 2 video. I just cannot squeeze any more white people into this tier list right now. I'm sorry. Let me know what you think of these rankings in the comments. I'm sure you will. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, white rappers forever.